The 2026 NEBA season is brought to you by Storm, Roto Grip, and 900 Global Bowling. We'd like to thank our tournament sponsors for the 2026 season: Tony and Suzanne Renaud, Ace Mitchell Bowlers Mart, Better Bowling Concepts, Buddy's Pro Shop, Cambridge Credit Counseling, Logo Infusion, Turbo Grips, Tech Vision, Yankee Lanes Keen, Yankee Lanes Manchester, Bowl Winkles Pro Shop, Callahan's Bowlorama, Many Styles of Bowling, Bloomfield Electric, Dexter, KR Strikeforce, Grog Monster Sports, East Coast Sports Investors, Ideal Bowling Concepts, DJBT, Island Bowling Supply, Lia Cars, Jopo Grips, Northeast Megabucks, Old Mountain Lanes, TournamentSense.com, Major Bowling, Pinwheel.us, and The House Bowling. Thank you for tuning in. Now remember to like and share and enjoy the show.
Alrighty, welcome one and welcome all. If you haven't already, like and share the stream. You got to know what we're tuning in for this fine Thursday. We're going to be talking with our Lia Cars singles event champion, Mr. Jay Johnson. If you didn't already know this, Jay Johnson's our current NEBA president. So exciting times for him, not only to have won an event, add another title to his resume, but he's El Presidente. So we got to give him credit where credit is due. Jay's been doing a fantastic job of that. And I think everybody would agree that he is very good at managing his position, especially since he was kind of just tossed right into there. So, yeah, to talk a little bit about this event, obviously it was the 2026 Lia Cars singles event, as you're seeing on your screen. This drew about 144 entries, so a little bit on the lower side, but not totally unexpected. With the Saturday squad was actually pretty healthy. It was the Sunday squads that were kind of a little bit on the lower side. We attribute that a little bit more towards the Masters. I think we had about a dozen or so guys that typically bowl NEBA who were out at the Masters right now. Quite a few of them even having some success out there. Some of the other guys finding it's not necessarily NEBA out there this week. But in general, super pumped to have a lot of high-level competitors being able to go out to the Masters and compete. I'm willing to give up a weekend for them if they're willing to come back and continue to bowl NEBA with us. So yeah, so like I said, 144 entries. We did bowl on a reasonably difficult pattern, and we'll pop that up here. That was the 2024 PBA Scorpion pattern. Had about 35 mils of volume, 42 feet, and it's just a little over 2.5 to 1. And we played in a center that we were all expecting to, I think, hook a little bit more. Even with the volume, the 35 mils out there, I think we had a higher volume pattern the previous year that was just a little longer, so a little stretched out. So that's probably why we saw a little bit more of that friction. But this event definitely didn't have a lot of friction to play with, at least early on. It definitely played like a pattern that had 35 mils, a lot of big balls going down the lane, a lot of balls with surface going down the lane, and urethane and urethane-like balls also going down the lane, which we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes. Now, for our competitor, who ended up taking it all away, Mr. Jay Johnson. Jay, this is his 7th NEBA title, with his last NEBA title coming at the I Am Bowling singles event in 2025, where I believe, who did he beat off the top of my head? I can't remember it, but I'm sure Jay does. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and bring Jay Johnson in? Mr. Jay Johnson, how are we doing today, sir?
Jesse, thanks for having me. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm doing well over here. So let's run down just a little bit. So your last win, as we were just talking about, 2025, you're no stranger to winning, at least in NEBA anyway, with your last title. So that was probably just about a year ago or so, right?
August last year, yep.
August last year. So, I mean, within a year. So, yeah, I'm not going to say you're on a heater, but you're definitely always right there in the mix. And even in the top 16 in points, you're pretty much always there. At least since I've been around NEBA, you've always been around, always been competitive. So it's always a delight to see. I love guys who take it serious and get into it. So I think that if anything, enhances the experience of bowling NEBA and being able to watch it and see guys get into it a little bit more. I find it really boring when people are boring on the lanes. You know what I mean? So you can always tell when somebody wants it. I know you want it. So speaking of which, before we get into the video, not your famous video, we're going to get into that one too, but your qualifying, I thought this was very interesting because I had a very similar approach before winning mine. I talked to you several times throughout the day, and I think each time, at least one time, you mentioned what you're winning the tournament. It wasn't if I win, it was when I win, I'm going to win. I think I heard that at least 2 or 3 times from you. And not everybody definitely talks like that. I think we all know that winning NEBA is very difficult. And it takes a lot. I'm not going to say luck, but it does take some luck to get through your matches. Because you can score very high and end up losing, or you can make it through with a 180 and missing some spares. So anything's definitely possible for that part of it. So talk us a little bit through your mindset leading up to this event, and why was this the one that you right out of qualifying, you're like, I'm winning this one, or is that everyone for you?
I try to win everyone. I think everybody does, right? We're there to compete. And sometimes when you get on the lanes and you see your ball motion, pretty early if you at least have a chance, right?
Sure.
And I feel like certain patterns, someone's always going to have a really good look. Every NEBA, whether it's a hard pattern, an easy pattern, whatever's out there, somebody's going to match up really, really well.
Sure.
And I knew pretty early on, I'm like, wow, my ball's going through the pins the right way. This is nice. Let's just keep throwing it well and see what happens. And towards the end of qualifying, I was near the top of the leaderboard, and I'm like, well, let's just keep doing the thing. But I felt really good this past weekend.
I was going to say, just from the shots I got to watch, in terms of quality shot making, I think you were in a part of the lane that not only lets you be comfortable, but you just look really, really confident out there. I think that always helps when your ball reaction is doing the right thing too. So, but speaking of the ball and the fact that you are a Storm staffer, talk to me a little bit about your equipment choice. Obviously, we've seen you throw in the concept. Did you try anything else, or were you pretty much locked into that concept from the start?
One ball the whole day, and maybe in practice before the first squad, I want to say I tried a couple other balls, but put them away quick. I mean, that ball, it's special. I can't say it enough. I would tell everybody who would listen to me on Sunday, I felt like I had twice the room everybody else had. Like, I know I had to throw some good shots here and there, but it's a lot easier to stay loose on a tough pattern when you feel like you've got a little miss left, a little miss right. And the concept, it just kept going through the pins the right way. I mean, it's hard to describe how good it was.
And you weren't the only one to throw the concept. As a matter of fact, the opponent that you beat in the finals, Evan Throw, he was also throwing a concept, which, fun fact, if you didn't know, Evan actually didn't try that ball in qualifying. I actually crossed with him to begin with, and the very first thing, he hit that thing with a 500 pad, and he said he didn't really have a look on the fresh, and that he hit that thing with a 500 pad and said, I'm going to live or die by it. I've seen some people throwing it, probably you. And he shot 299 out of the gate. So I don't think you're the only one to find success with this ball. If anybody's been paying attention to the Masters, as well as maybe even some of the other PBA events, there were 3 300s this weekend with a concept. I think we had Don Barrett shot one. I want to say Brent Boho maybe was using it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he was one today. And then there was another 300 that was thrown with the concept. So ball's pretty good. I feel like, especially, I don't know, let's say we got let down with the level. You really liked your level, but this is a completely different animal. And I feel like both in terms of sales and being able to see the ball's versatility and see it continue to be usable after some games, that this ball's going to be around for a while. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. I expect to be throwing this at a lot of things. Going to go to nationals this year. I expect it, when they're hard, especially, flatter patterns, I could see this ball being the go-to.
Yeah. I was skeptical at first, once again, because of the level. And I wasn't a huge hyper fan of it, but I only drove mine as a 2-finger guy. You had the full fit, and I feel like the times I've watched you throw it, it's always giving you a reasonable look, probably a little bit closer to the traditional urethane look than what a concept is. I feel like the concept is niche ball reaction, in the sense that it does hook early because it has a super strong, fast absorbing cover, but it doesn't have a lot of core in it. But it still has enough to be able to, if it gets to the friction, it's going to bounce a little stronger. And if it does get up the lane, that early cover reading just really kind of helps blend that out. So super impressed with what I've seen from it, especially after watching you in this match. So having said that, you are our NEBA president. I know this is a champions interview, but talk to me a little bit about that experience so far, because you were kind of thrown into that.
I mean, I was expecting to be in this role a year from now. So it wasn't totally thrown into it, just a little bit earlier. And heck of a 2026 to start my my term. We had a couple snowstorms. We had some little bit of controlled chaos, but I feel like we've made some pretty smart decisions along the way.
Sure.
And our bowlers have been super understanding. I don't think anybody's had any backlash with any of the difficult times, so to speak. Just some bumps in the road, really. But I'm just doing what I can to help the organization. It's always been, by the bowlers for the bowlers, and I'm just trying to, play my piece now.
I think I speak for a lot of folks when I say that you've been doing a fantastic job between all these little hiccups that we've had, just kind of being tossed into the mix. And good luck with your responsibilities now, as well as fulfilling those responsibilities. I feel like there's been some instances where that necessarily hasn't happened all the way, and you're doing a great job so far. So without further ado, let's get into a little bit of the bowling. And Jay, we got to start out with the video. I think if you guys are watching, and if you've seen any, or if you haven't been in social media, maybe you haven't seen it, but outside of that, you've seen it. It's been shared across the board a number of times. Lucas Wiseman shared it. I think Bola just shared it, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, as well as I think you said on Instagram, this video is approaching 1 million views. So that was a ball that got a little airborne on a 710 due to somebody, not going to mention who drills your equipment. But a sleeve breaking loose. Now I'll take full responsibility for that one. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this video. Oh! An absolute monster shot at the 17. Oh! If you guys catch it, that is a sleeve coming unglued out of Jay's spare ball. Unfortunate timing, but what I have to say is, after that happened, you found out we had it on video, and this is another instance. You said that it's going to look so good when I win this tournament to also be able to post that video and say this happened afterwards. And it was when you win, not if you win. And I thought that was just fantastic. I don't know personally if this helped push it a little bit, but it really felt kind of neat for it all to come together. What was, how did you keep your composure, I guess is what I should say? Because a lot of people are going to be frying out, and especially with being your spare ball, but you're going to be frying out, walking out the building, or at the very least not even making qualifying. And you made it the full run. Tell me about that.
So I was rattled, obviously. That was not a pleasant experience. But immediately after it happened, I realized I'm not hurt. So, okay, that's a win. I don't know how I wasn't hurt. It was a weird, it just hung up. And yeah, obviously you saw the video. And the first thing is someone went and got my sleeve and slug, and a hero went to the pro shop, glued it back in, so I was able to use the ball for the rest of the event.
A little bit more than that, apparently.
We got it done, though. We got it done.
Sure.
Yeah, my first 2 or 3 shots next game, super tentative, but they were spares, and I ended up throwing like a 7-bagger for 250. So sure. I eased back into it. I did a little, bevel, little thumb hole work just to make sure things were fine, and they were. Hindsight, I thought about it a little more. I was probably so paranoid about it happening again. My hand was loose. I was very
you're like,
don't squeeze, right? I was probably coming out a bit cleaner than ever, as loose as I was trying to be at the bottom. So,
well, let me tell you, it definitely paid off in a big way if that's the case, because you ended up, like you said, you bowled phenomenal throughout the entire qualifying. I think you were probably in the top 5 at very least of a very tight 9 a.m. squad. I think the leader was 138 and making the cut was 108. So not that we took that many people, but that was a very narrow margin to hit in, and you're just right on top of with everybody. So so without further ado, since we've been chatting for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and pull your match up, and we can continue to chat. The back side of the pattern today. So speed was definitely a factor if you were going a little left to right. You don't want to hear me. But if you're playing a pretty strict, very first shot there, 7-9, a 7-9 that goes. What was there any thought outside of, oh man, that was a close one, or did you keep it pretty much right there after the fact?
So we went right into match play. Before this, we got 2 shots on each lane, and 3 of the 4 shots I missed the headpin right. So we went to a new pair. It's always like this in the finals. You go to a more fresh pair for the final match, and it just felt like there was a ton of hang on the gutter. So, and there was hang on the gutter all day, but it was more so here. I squared up a little bit, and I was always trying to keep the ball in front of me the whole day. But it was even more exaggerated here. And, a couple of my misses, I know I got right, and they had no chance.
And I don't think there was a single miss after the fact. I mean, you kept it in play, as we're going to see here in just a few minutes throughout this match. You kept it right around the 1-3 the entire time. I don't think you gave the pocket away once. Actually, even the same for your competitor here, even he was on top of it. I think he just ended up having this early open here, which kind of allowed you to loosen up and not necessarily have to press for strikes right out of the gate, which I feel like is a big factor when you know that the scores are there. And, say, you got a guy like Evan Throw who's able to strike with the best of them. And especially if you guys are both in the same ball, you know what type of ball he's throwing, part of the lane he's throwing, the look is there. So just to have a little breathing room to say, okay, I left a spare. I can make a spare and move on. It's not the end of the world. I didn't need to throw a 5-bagger right now. So
he threw so many quality shots. I want to say he left 3 or 4 10-pins on shots that all could have struck.
sure.
It was it was a really good match. I think all of our shots were in play.
Sure. And who did you end up on before this? I think it was Aaron Major, if I'm not mistaken. And
It was.
Aaron,
Yep.
that's another one. I don't know how you make it through bowling with Aaron Major. Anybody who faces him, you know that man strikes a ton. And I remember witnessing probably 3 or 4 shots in a row where he had spares in the frames, and I was like, oh my goodness, how does Aaron not double? It's kind of insane. What is the type of mindset that you have going into something where you're facing competitors that potentially have a higher strike percentage than you, or at very least are intimidating in that factor?
All those cliches that you hear people say, they're all true. It's just bowl like you're bowling practice, one shot at a time. If you throw a quality shot, you can strike. It's just always trying to stay in the moment and throw just one good shot, and that's it.
Yeah, speaking of good shots, that one was pretty good right there. Put 10 back. I was super excited, by the way, to call that match throughout the entire thing. I knew I was going to get a lot of good shots from both of you because you guys have both been doing it all day. Another thing that I want to touch on, especially with you, just because we bowl together enough now that it's easy to see. It's not everybody is a competitor in the sense of learning these patterns and doing the extra things to come to a NEBA and be able to bowl. I want to talk about how we're able to get some of our people who are a little more hesitant to come out and bowl things like modified patterns or sport patterns, and just have some confidence. And what got you to be able to do these types of things?
So probably 2 really important factors. Practice. That goes without saying. I bowl in a sport league in the summer where you bowl on PBA patterns, and it's across 4 different patterns. And it's really hard to simulate it unless you're really out there doing it. And when you're in league, you get a little more comfort, a little more flexibility to try things, to make moves. So that's a really good experience. And the world we live with technology now, there is so many ways to do video research and see what's out there, especially when we publish the patterns. And for the most part, they're right out of the Kaggle library. They're patterns that have been used. They're tried and true. There's usually a lot of content out there where you could see what is successful on a certain type of pattern. And obviously every bowler matches up differently. It's not going to be identical for everybody, but there's ways to at least get an idea so you're not walking into something totally blind.
True. So did you do any type of research prior to this event as far as like watching shows or patterns or anything like that?
Yep. Once it was published, it's always published a week in advance. I went back and I watched the 2024 Scorpion show. And I was like, my first thought was, well, this is going to be an Aaron Major tournament.
Yeah.
Because there was, the 5 guys on the show. It was Belmo and 4 two-handed lefties, which it was, that it's a good matchup, right? No thumbs were harmed in the making of that TV show. So, but it played, it plays different in every center. Just because you put a particular pattern down doesn't mean it's going to be guaranteed to play, like what you see. But it was I think it was close based on the parts of the lane that people were in. I'll go back to the concept, gave me the best look,
Now, I think it's kind of interesting, and I touched on this a little bit right before we got you in here, is that this center last year, we had a 47-foot pattern out, similar volume, but probably just a hair less volume overall. I think it was like 32 mils, but it was stretched out, and it hooked. So I know leading into this, I talked
last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it hooked a ton. So you're expecting, okay, it's 35 mils, but it's also a little shorter. this pattern's probably still going to end up hooking at some point. And I know I talked with, Chris Forey. He's always pretty much dead on with what the centers are as far as their characteristics and how the patterns are going to play. He always has a really solid idea. And I think we were all surprised when we stepped in here and we were able to throw bigger balls or surface balls and be able to stay in a certain part of the lane very, very long. I don't think there was maybe a handful of people at most I've seen that were able to cover some boards. Everybody who was scoring, and I mean everybody, was doing what you're doing, staying fairly straight, just a different type of ball maybe. But outside of that, it was very interesting. What were your thoughts going into this? Did you expect it to hook a little more than they did?
I did. I mean, I always bring the full arsenal because you never know what could accidentally happen, right?
I know what it means.
You always want to be prepared. So
Sure.
I bring everything. But like 2 shots into practice, it was very apparent I didn't need everything. It was tight. And not only was it tight, it held up well the whole day. Even 12:30, I was watching bowlers that were out there, and some places at 12:30, you're left a fifth arrow and you're fading, a shot to the hole. People were still on top of it to the right at 12:30 and scoring the same way people were at 9.
Yeah, which I found also very interesting. As I sat on the bubble myself, so I just got to sit out and watch. And I don't think I ever seen anybody, at least with success, being left to 20. I think everybody was kind of right of 20 and just kind of getting the early hook and just let it set up in the middle of the lane and just really kind of round out the shape. So I was a big fan of the pattern in general, whether it was ended up being the low scores that tricked me the night before, but coming back into even to that day to see that it was very easy to obviously have the scores there, but it was also easy to get yourself into a little bit of trouble, which I think even some of those scores out. Also, another thing, and maybe this wasn't necessarily touched on as much during your stint, but you were a collegiate bowler. Is that correct?
I bowled for Sacred Heart for a little bit.
So you did have a little bit of experience. Did they bowl on sport patterns as much back then, or are they still a little bit softer?
Little of both. Some patterns I remember being impossible, and some I remember becoming impossible. 5-man team, 16-game tournament where by the end it was just miserable hook. Some of them, though, I remember there was a big tournament in St. Louis where I felt like scoring pace was crazy high. But little of both, yeah.
Sure. Now, I mean, me personally, the reason I actually went out to college bowling was for the experience of bowling on sport shots. When I got there, that's all they were. They were all sport. Some of them were a little harder than others, but that was the main reason I went, was to go out there and learn. So if you are a youth type bowler, I would highly suggest that you at very least look at college bowling if you're happening to go down that route. If not, no big deal. But that is an amazing place to go, especially if you get in touch with some of these programs. There are so many more good programs now than there were even 10 years ago, let alone, back when you were going. So, yeah. So me personally, I'm always a huge advocate for college bowling. Maybe not necessarily the college loans that come along with it, but the environment itself is second to none. The people that you end up meeting out there, second to none. The friends that you make, lifetime long friends. That's why I'm at where I'm at today. That's why I'm at Buddy's Pro Shop currently, was just because of college bowling. So shout out to that, unrelated to your match here.
And it's not,
now,
I'll go one step further. Not even just college bowling, just junior tournaments in general. DJBT locally does a fantastic job. And today, more than when I was a junior, they put out tougher patterns. A lot of the young guys these days are growing up on the same stuff that we put out at NEBA. So there's less of a learning curve, I think, for the youth of today's game.
I agree. And if anything, they almost desire it a little bit more, which I feel like is a fun thing. Now, maybe I get to see that a little bit more here at Nutmeg. The junior program is probably one of the best in Connecticut, and they also bowl on sport. That's what they bowl on. They don't fiddle around with the house shots here too much. And I think we even have a junior Team USA member that bowls out of here. If Anna Anthony, she also bowls out of here. So but she bowls the sport shot league and it kicks all their butts. So real good look into the future of what youth bowling is. Maybe it's gotten a little tighter, a little smaller overall, but just in general, it's nice to see that these kids don't necessarily want the full wall and expect they want a challenge. I mean, that's good. That's good to see. So as we just see you absolutely split the 8-9 there on the right lane. We're about a halfway point in this match now. Unfortunately, we can't see the scores. I thought it was kind of funny the way we had to set this table up. It just got out of the view, and if I would have bumped it back anymore, the iPad would have fell over, so we didn't get to actually see the runner-up scores here. But at this point, this is where you're actually starting to put some serious pressure on Evan to have to strike. I do remember that at one point I was like, if he doesn't strike here, it's pretty much game over because Jay's so locked in. So, was there any point in this match that you felt it's like, I've got this in the bag? I mean, or are you thinking that the whole time?
I try not to think like that. I try to just think about the shot in the moment, because if you start playing games in your head, like until it's actually locked out, every shot matters. Every shot's got to be a quality shot.
Now, I feel like that's such a huge part that is missing from a lot of folks' game. Even if the guys are really, really good physically and make a lot of cuts and things like that, is the mental game side of it and is staying present. What is this something that you went and took upon yourself to try to learn? Is it something that's a little bit more comes natural to you? Where did you get your mental game side of things?
So I'm going to rewind a few years. I'm going to rewind a lot of years. When I had my son, I took a break from competitive tournament play for almost a decade. So say almost between 2010 and 2020, I didn't really bowl tournaments competitively. I still bowled league. I got my fill, but family first focused during that time.
Sure.
After COVID, I came back. At the time I was bowling league with Frankie Kalka. He kind of was nudging me like, hey, you should probably get back into it. So I did. I put some work into my physical game and my mental game at the time. There's a couple books out there that I know that I read that helped me tremendously. Bowling Psychology and The Inner Game of Tennis. Both books.
Both of those.
Cannot recommend enough. And there's a lot of things in there that after you read it, like, oh yeah, that's common sense.
Sure.
But all of the things about quiet mind and focus, be in the moment, all, again, like I said before, the cliches, right? I really try to practice those when I'm bowling, really competitive stuff. And it absolutely has helped me.
And you said the one thing there that a lot of those things are common sense, but they're not common practice. And I think those are two different types of things. In order to build those types of mental game tricks into your bag, you actually have to actively go out and do it. You have to say, I'm doing this because X, Y, Z. I know that this pays off. It's the same thing as your pre-shot routine, basically. And it even gets worked into it. So just to make sure that you're constantly doing that type of thing. And I think you're absolutely dead on there. I've read Bowling Psychology probably a half a dozen times now, and every single time I'm pulling something back out of it. I could go back now and read it, and I'm like, man, that's the play. So if you're watching this right now and you need a little bit of that boost in your game, I don't care if you think it's physical or mental, go out and grab Dr. Dean's Bowling Psychology or The Inner Game of Tennis. I've just like you read both those
literally
books.
Next to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can get them off Amazon, and they're fantastic reads. I know when I was coaching a college team, we went out and got everybody one of those books and had them, go through and study them. And there's the people who take it serious; they will find something every time. And it's kind of funny to me that you could read that book, not even set foot on a lane. You could read the entire book, and you will improve instantly, just from some of the things that you pull out of there if you put them into play.
Yeah,
instant improvement. So. Yeah, by all means, go out and read a mental game book. It's huge. It's going to make you a better bowler. And probably it's going to help you out in other areas of life too. Just because it's a bowling related book doesn't mean it's going to help you elsewhere. It absolutely does. So 10 out of 10 on those. It's a good call. Yeah. So let's see here. As we're running back through the event, this was our second time that I recall being at Spare Time. What did you think of the center? I know when I walked in, there was a brand new renovation, basically, at least in the back half of the center.
Yeah, super clean. It was well maintained. Yeah, no issues, no concerns. But not to disparage any other centers, but yeah, I bowl in a couple places that might not a couple. This place was well kept.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think if there's anything that I look for in whether or not I know a center is well kept, it's two things: are the lanes running well? And the other thing is, if I wipe my shoe and I look at my hand and it is pitch black, and if you don't keep up on cleaning your approaches and cleaning your floors, I'm ready to walk out as is. But yeah, I think we were both right on there. I mean, the lanes seemed like they were running pretty well the entire time. The center was very clean, had no issues with that. So, and shout out to Nancy Cody at Spare Time Northampton for being able to take care of us for our 1058th event. I keep saying this every time I go back and recap an event that it seems like just yesterday we were at the 1000th NEBA, and it seemed like such a big deal. And now we're already up to 1058, and I feel like that's such a cool achievement among tournaments, let alone what we do here. So shout out to all the sponsors and the bowlers that we have, as well as all the NEBA staff that make all that stuff possible. I don't know if anybody truly has the entire inner workings of what goes on behind the scene. I mean, even you to some extent probably don't know certain little things and details until they kind of pop back in, as we've kind of discussed before. So it's very interesting to see all the parts that come together to allow our bowlers to be able to compete and have something to go out for. So very cool for that part. Let's touch on your 7th title real quick. That is among some pretty elite company when you come down to it. So what does it mean to you to have won a 7th title? And is there a specific goal in number of titles that you're trying to reach?
No goal. It was a goal to become Hall of Fame eligible. And, that I was able to achieve that last year, fortunately. So, at this point, I just want to go out and compete and do my best. It's, I still got a ton of drive and no long-term agenda, but just show up and do my best and, see what happens.
And I think that you're going to keep finding this success because, I mean, just by your shot making, as well as just your general attitude and all that good stuff as far as competitive bowling is concerned, it's going to definitely afford you a few more opportunities to get some more titles at very least. So very cool for that part of it. Other than that, let's see where we're at in this match. We're just starting to wrap up here. Actually, I think you pretty much already got Evan and I think you're stepping up into the 10th frame as we speak here on this right lane. Really just to take it home. I mean, you had already won at this point. What's going through your head in the 10th frame? Are you still locked into that? Or just go up and make a good shot, or is it pretty much already in the bag for you?
At this point, it was don't put it in the gutter and don't go 4 through the middle. It was throw the high hard one. It was because mathematically I needed to hit pins, and I'm pretty sure I was very firm and very direct on this one. Like just keep it in play.
And man, if there isn't a thing to do on this pattern, you did all the right things there by saying, if I just keep a little firm and it got a little up the lane, that's pretty much guaranteed to smack the 1-3. And as long as you got the 10 out, I think you're good there regardless. So pretty good feeling if you haven't had a chance to experience and you're watching at home. This is why we bowl NEBA, I feel like. Not only to have this feeling, but winning the matches alone is like that sigh of relief to move on in a NEBA event is something else. But this right here, to be able to step up, knowing you've won and you've clinched yourself another title, is a special type of feeling that not too many get to experience. You've been through it now 7 times. Take me through what it's like for you to win a NEBA.
It's awesome. I mean, it means so much. And I don't know, most people understand how difficult it is to win in NEBA. And some of the things you just said, it's really difficult to make a cut in NEBA. This was my first cut this year. I bowled 3 events before this, didn't make a cut. So after 9 a.m., I was very like, I could sigh of relief. Like, all right, got past a hurdle.
And not only that, but you only had to bowl 1 squad to make the cut.
Right. That's different.
That seems like a special thing too.
And then, like you said, it's hard to win a match, let alone win all of them. So, as the day continued and I felt confident in my look, I was just trying to stay in the moment, do the thing. And it means the world. And it was cool because my son was there. He comes with me occasionally to tournaments. And, he was rooting me on that last match. So that was fun.
Yeah, that was a very cool moment. I seen the light in his eyes when he was holding your trophy as we were taking that picture. He thought that was very, very cool. I mean, I think he had a lot of sense of pride in his dad there for that. So that was a really cool moment to see. And going back to touch on how difficult it is to make this, and ladies and gentlemen, that has nothing to do with the patterns. I think you could put out whatever pattern you want. I think it speaks highly of the talent that we have at NEBA. That personally, I've got to experience a lot of different levels of bowling. I'm very grateful for that. I bowled at the regional level, national level. The regional level bowlers are very similar. I think they're the same guys. It seems like at the same level as what NEBA puts out. Now we do have some folks that are out there competing at the national events, and that's great too. But if you were to put us on a tier, I think if you said PBA regional level, that's it for me. So, I mean, all of these guys, I mean, the Hall of Famers that we have alone have worlds of experience that I can't even like wrap my head around sometimes when I'm talking to some of these guys. I mean, Forey's probably one of the more notable ones because I hang around them all the time. But yeah, speak to me a little bit, especially now that you're a president, on what your thoughts are on our talent level, and do you see it? How are we going to grow that? I mean, can we even get past this point, or are we? I don't know. Just take it from there.
We have some of the most talented bowlers in the country. And I know every pocket of the country has its own thing. I don't think anywhere else in the country has something like NEBA. And when you see guys like you mentioned earlier in this interview that we got maybe 10 or 12 guys that are out at the Masters right now. There's 2 of them right now that are right around the top 10.
Sure.
It's amazing. We have Hall of Famers that have a plethora of titles and a career I could only dream of. And at the same time, we've got youth that are coming up that are doing things that boggle my mind. And I can't even imagine when I was that age doing those same types of things. So, up and down the brackets, up and down, the different demographics, we've got some really special bowlers in our organization.
And I think NEBA is not only special because of the sport shot type environment that we get to live in, but the fact that we do get to have these younger guys, or even just people who are inexperienced with sport shots in general, get to come in and they will bowl against some of the best to get to the experience of not only bowling on a sport pattern, but get to see the guys who are really, really good at it and try to pick their brain a little bit or get to follow along with them. That's the one big separation for me from us to a regional event is like, if you're going to a regional event, it's like now it's like over $300 to get into it. Most of the guys that are bowling there are elite level bowlers anyway. I mean, you have a handful that are just kind of throwing their hat in the ring. Me personally, I remember when I was going out there, I was more pressured to try to win my money back than it was to try to learn a little bit more. So I think that's a big separator for NEBA is the fact that, we have a reasonable entry fee, I believe. I mean, I think we're pretty comparable to any event that's out there, especially when you consider what we provide back to the people. So the fact that we have an environment that I hope supports growth of the bowler, not necessarily just growth of the organization, because I think those go hand in hand, but the growth of bowlers being able to come out and feel confident or feel okay with coming out and trying their luck at coming and bowling in NEBA, try to see what it is like to bowl on a more difficult pattern against people who are really good. And you may end up surprising yourself. So, I mean, even if you're somebody who averages, 190 or 200 in a house shot, you come out to some of these events just because they're recreation or just because they're not recreation, just because they're modified sport patterns or something in that doesn't necessarily mean they're unscorable if you just learn where and what to throw. I feel like that's the biggest part, and NEBA allows that, and I think that's huge.
So I got a good story with that. My 9 a.m. squad, I was crossing with a couple of guys that I had not met before, and 2 of them let me know it was their first NEBA. So, I always try to be, chatty, welcoming, positive,
Especially
regardless of how I'm doing and whatnot. And they were both kind of struggling and, not giving up, though, doing their best. And they were thinking about re-entering, and we're talking about a few things. And they both ended up re-entering. One of them, I want to say his first squad was maybe 120 under. He ends up bowling really well. The second squad, making the cut, figured it out. And it was cool to see that. I saw him in match play, said hi. The other guy, he reached out to me after the tournament, said how nice it was to cross with me, how happy he was that, I got to win the tournament. He got to watch it. He had such a great time, and he'll be at the next one. So, things like that, those are the things I like to see and hear from our bowlers. We want people to feel welcome, have a chance to compete, to learn. That's why we do NEBA.
Yeah, I 100% agree there. So, so to wrap up the show, we'll just talk here real quick. Our next events that we're going to end up having is the Joe Post Special Cuts event, as well as the KR Strike Force Non-Champions event. Both of those at Bolero Worcester. They're going to be April 11th is your Special Cuts event, while the 11th and the 12th is the Non-Champions event. And then afterwards, I think it was 2 weeks later, we're going to end up having our BuddiesProShop.com event here at Nutmeg Bowl. So if you are watching and you're trying to dip your toes into a NEBA event, you have plenty of opportunities coming up, both with a non-champions event. So if you're not totally confident with bowling against the best that NEBA has, you can come out and bowl those. And trust me, there's still going to be plenty of competition at those events, I promise. But yeah, dip your toes into it a little bit. Typically, the non-champs events are a little softer pattern than dead flat. So you'll have a little bit of opportunity there. As well as the special cuts event is good for your senior bowler. So if you're a senior bowler and you feel like you want to come out and give it a try, by all means, come on out. Same thing with our women bowlers are part of that special cuts event too. So, and then I'm always pumped when we come to Nutmeg, not only because I'm here all the time, but it's just a different energy in my head. I feel like when we come here, the BuddiesProShop.com events typically are on the lower scoring side anyway. It's always kind of up in the air with how the Nutmeg pattern wants to play. The gutter always plays here, by the way. If you're a fan of playing the gutter, come out and bowl that NEBA event. So you guys can always check that out. BowlNEBA.com. You can head to the tournaments tab, and you'll be able to see all of the events that we have listed out for throughout the season. I think we have a very full schedule, very solid set of events for everybody to come out and bowl. And then you can also go on there. I highly recommend going on there and just taking a look at the champions list, and just see the pure list of just dominant bowlers. Those guys like Mike Lichstein and Alex Aguiar, they're freaks of nature when it comes to the number of titles. I think after Alex is 29, I think it's Bill Webb right after that, and he's like 22, I think, in that ballpark. And then after that's like 15. So it's crazy to me the jumps in numbers of titles. So you just kind of get to gawk over it a little bit, I guess is what it is, and be like, man, imagine what it was like to find a way to put up those numbers. Those guys are so dominant. And they're still super competitive today. So it's very cool to be able to basically bowl with the best that we've ever had and also have these younger guys come up too. Can't talk enough good things about NEBA. I could probably sit here and talk all night about it. So, but yeah, having said that, do you have any final words for the folks of the Lia Cars Open Champion?
Thanks to everybody who supports our organization. The staff we have, blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes with Dan, Justin, Debbie, everybody. And thanks, to all those who support me over the years. Storm Bowling, they've been sponsoring me for a while. You guys at Buddies do a great job with my stuff, and my family. Well, still might spare the rest of the day.
Yeah. So, having said that, guys, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to still like and share this. That way we can get Jay Johnson some extra recognition. The man deserves it, as not only as his bowling deserves it, but him being the president that we currently have, and he's doing a great job. So feel free to help support him by liking and sharing this, and follow along with Jay. Jay always likes to post about his bowling. So having said that, everybody have a great night, and we'll see you at the next NEBA.
Thank you for tuning in to our live coverage of today's event. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors and members for their continued support of NEBA. We couldn't continue to offer some of the best competitive events in the country without you. Your commitment to the sport makes all of this possible. We encourage you to support the businesses that support NEBA. When you support our sponsors, you're directly supporting NEBA and the future of competitive bowling. Be sure to check out The House Bowling and receive 15% off all merchandise by using promo code NEBA at checkout. You can also shop I Am Bowling, powered by Logo Infusion, and save 25% off your order with promo code NEBA. Thank you again for being part of our community.